Our next honoree, David Sobelson, graduated from the University of Chicago. Although he majored in political science at Chicago, he also took many drama courses. In these courses, including one taught by Paul DeAndrea, who is now at George Mason University, in these courses, students approached drama as literature. They read play scripts and they wrote papers. As a result of this course of study, David fell in love with reading plays. After college, David's career took him into law and politics. For most of the 1980s, he was a law professor. For much of the 1990s, he served as a lobbyist and as legislative counsel. But he never forgot his love of theater, and especially of drama as literature. In 1994, David learned that the University of Chicago Club of Washington, D.C. sponsored a great books discussion group. That gave him an idea. What if he started a drama discussion group? Over the winter of 1994 to 1995, David put the group together. From the start, he decided not to limit the group to Chicago alumni, but to open it up to anyone who was interested in theater. He called the group Footlights. Footlights had its first meeting over dinner at a DuPont Circle restaurant on Flag Day, June 14, 1995. 17 people attended. Half of them were University of Chicago alumni, and half of them were not. Soon, the D.C. Club of Stanford, where David also attended, joined as a sponsor. Later, Harvard and Cornell came. Early on, David incorporated theater trips. Footlights members would discuss plays, then attend performances of the plays they had discussed, followed by a second discussion at the theater, this time with the cast. And after a year, David began arranging guest speakers to address the group, directors, scholars, sometimes even Pulitzer Prize-winning playwrights. Footlights grew. Today, Footlights is nearly 12 years old and going strong. It counts over 200 active members. Over 500 subscribe to its online list, which you can find at www.footlightsdc.org. Each discussion draws from 30 to 50 participants. There are book clubs and there are theater-going groups. This award goes to David Sobelson for starting something new and unique, a book club whose members discuss only plays and who also go together to the theater. So David, I'm pleased to present you with this award. And my first question to you is, what should we know in general about Footlights?
The most important thing to know is that it's open to everybody, that anyone who has an interest in theater, particularly in theater as literature and particularly discussing theater, is welcome to participate. It's also possible to participate at any particular level. We go to theater to see plays performed, and we also sit over dinner to discuss plays as literature, but there are people who just come to the discussion over dinner, having read the play, and there are people who just go to the theater with us to see the performance and haven't read the play. So it's a very, very flexible group, and it's open to everyone.
Now, can you tell us about the Pulitzer Prize winner that you had as a speaker?
Sure. As you said in your very, very nice introduction, one of our co-sponsoring alumni clubs years ago was Cornell. I had decided after about a year to start inviting guest speakers to address us and put together a series of plays that we would discuss in 1998 to 99 on the theme of outsiders and outlaws. That was the year that Paula Vogel's play, How I Learned to Drive, won the Pulitzer Prize. and it seemed to me like an excellent play for us to discuss that year. And it so happens Paula Vogel attended Cornell. And so with some research and talking to the right people, I was able to connect with Paula Vogel, and we had our first really huge turnout to hear Paula Vogel lead our discussion of her Pulitzer Prize winning play, How I Learned to Drive. I've been in touch over the years with Paula, and she's a wonderful, wonderful person. And of course, she was only our first playwright. We haven't since then had a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright address us, but every year we've had at least one playwright talk to us about his or her play.
Can you tell us about your advisory board?
Sure. After a couple of years, we decided to incorporate and to become part of the Cultural Alliance of Greater Washington. And as part of that process, we decided to put together an advisory board consisting of luminaries from around Washington, from the theater world in Washington. And so we spoke, for example, to Molly Smith, a brilliant artistic director of Arena Stage, who agreed to join our advisory board, as well as Jim Petoza, amazing artistic director of the Olney Theater and also the head of the Boston University drama program, to join our advisory board. We have a number of other members of the advisory board, the Helen Hayes Award-winning actress and director Lee McKeska Gardner, and Christopher Henley, who runs the Washington Shakespeare Company. And it's been very useful to have these connections with luminaries of Washington theater, all of whom deserve this award far more than I do.
Where does Footlights meet?
Footlights meets in area restaurants, usually in a restaurant up by the Friendship Heights metro station, but occasionally in DuPont Circle and occasionally in Virginia. But it's always over dinner and it's always at a restaurant. And that way people can attend and eat dinner and socialize before the discussion. And of course, as I mentioned, Footlights is flexible, so there are people who come just for the discussion and not for dinner.
And how often do they meet?
Once a month, between 11 and 12 months a year. Traditionally, we've taken 1 month off during the summer. Usually that's August, when most people in the DC area seem to be gone. But more or less, it's 11 times a year.
What are some of your favorite theaters here in Washington?
Oh, well, I've already mentioned Arena Stage, where Molly Smith is artistic director, and the Olney Theater, where Jim Petoza is artistic director. I love Signature Theater, which is in Arlington here in Virginia. And the Studio Theater does fabulous work. The Washington Shakespeare Company, which I've also mentioned, is kind of an unheralded theater in the DC area. They perform out of the Clark Street Playhouse in Crystal City. They do some very, very interesting, very, very powerful work. We've been blessed in the last few years with an enormous number of new theaters that have tackled work that no one else would do and have done brilliantly with that work. I'm thinking, for example, of the Catalyst Theater, which currently has a production of The Resistible Rise of Arturo Ui on stage at the Capitol Hill Arts Workshop on 7th Street. It's a wonderful production.